but a long time ago, the idea of being the huge pop star stopped being the dream. The dream isn't a destination. The dream is to keep doing it. That's the destination.
Hello and welcome to the Beautiful Work Podcast. I am your host, Dan Krikorian. Each episode we feature a special guest from all walks of life, and we ask them to explore the ins and outs, the ups and downs, the trials and the triumphs in their chosen field. Writers, musicians, coaches, business owners, and everything in between. We peel back the curtain to hear their stories, to walk their paths, to find out how they breathe life into their beautiful work. We are excited to share a message and special offer from our show sponsor, JobStars USA. Are you looking for a new job? Does your resume need to be spruced up? Is your LinkedIn profile on point with your resume? JobStars USA is a career services practice specializing in resume writing and career coaching for entry through executive level job seekers. JobStars works with job seekers from start to finish in the development of interview-winning documents. Visit jobstars.com for more information. That's jobstars.com. And fans of the Beautiful Work Podcast can receive 10% off any JobStars purchase by using the coupon code BEAUTIFUL10. That's capital B, Beautiful 10. Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in to this edition of the Beautiful Work Podcast. This is going to be a fantastic show today. Bobbo Byrnes is my guest, and he is a friend of mine and a fantastic singer-songwriter, musician who's gaining traction in the world of Americana, folk, rock music with his latest album, The Red Wheelbarrow, earning much critical acclaim in 2019. We'll get to that in just a second. Before we do, those of you guys that are new or old fans of the show, a couple of things you could do to continue to help the show grow is to subscribe on iTunes or Spotify, leave a comment or a rating on one of those two platforms. It really helps other people find the show, and pass it along to someone that you think might enjoy this kind of deep dive episode as well. Couple of quick announcements. We had a fun end of 2019 for music. My album from 2019, Grandeur, landed on a couple of year-end top albums of the year list, with the longtime music critic George Paul from Southern California ranking it in one of his top 10 albums of the year. So that was a lot of fun to end 2019. You can go to the website dankrikorian.com to find a link to all my albums or look for them on Spotify. But it's fun to see Grandeur included on some of those lists. To go along with this podcast and with music, the kind of combination of the two, this upcoming February the 21st will be the fourth installment of the Beautiful Work Songwriter Showcase. It is a kind of a high-end, intimate, special songwriter showcase at the 1888 Center in the Orange Circle in downtown Orange. And on February 21st, myself will be playing along with a terrific lineup of Mike Teague, Manuel Greja, and Sister Speak. So Sherry Ann from Sister Speak. And it is a ton of fun. We've had 3 of them already to great success. And so if you are interested in that, please make sure to visit heritagefuture.org, where you can buy tickets to that show. There will also be links on my website, dankrikorian.com, or beautifulworkpodcast.com, and please support that. Okay, well, My guest today is, like I said, Bobbo Byrnes, and Bobbo is a fantastic interview. Has a lot to say about life, creativity, making music, and continuing to move forward in a career through difficult times and the good times. Like I said, he's had an album that has received much critical acclaim, with Goldmine magazine saying it only takes a cursory listen to his song Two Sides to This Town to recognize the fact that an important and essential new artist has indeed arrived. So without further ado, excited to bring you my interview with the great Bobbo Byrnes. Okay. Bobbo, great to be here.
Great to be here. It was a long commute.
I'll say, I'm in the famous. Do you have a
Wandering Star Studios?
Wandering Star Studio?
Yep.
Okay. How did that name?
There's a movie called Paint Your Wagon.
Okay.
With Clint Eastwood before he was a dick, and I forget the other guy's name, but
So how old was he then?
I was like
He was young.
21 or something.
Okay, he was real young.
But there's a song in it where he sings that I was born under a wandering star.
Okay.
And my studio is kind of wandering as well. I've designed it so I can pick it up, and take it anywhere.
Okay. It's a great name. It's a great studio.
Thank you.
Great workspace. Well, glad to have you on. I think we should start with how you and I met, which is
crazy.
Is an interesting story.
So many mutual friends, and then
yes,
take it away.
So you and I have been in and around the Orange County music scene for many years, and for whatever reason, we just hadn't crossed paths. But then this past summer, you and I meet cross paths in Berlin, Germany, do a show together, working with the same booking agency over there, and kind of an interesting night, to say the least.
It was a definitely interesting venue, too.
It was.
All I could think of going downstairs there, like, oh, this is where we go to Plot Revolution.
That's right.
It was like a burned out bar.
Yeah. A secret,
boarded up windows.
A door that kind of opened, kind of didn't.
Yeah.
Got a little claustrophobic.
Yes. And then opened up into a nice room.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Just bizarre.
Turned out to be a really good show. A little shaky in the beginning.
Definitely shaky in the beginning.
I got there probably half an hour before you. And
you're the comedian, right?
Yeah. When I got there, they didn't know that there was a show that night. And here I am, traveling all the way all over the place, and they have no idea who I am. And they don't speak English. And you
don't speak German.
I don't speak German. Luckily, I was with my really good friend and his girlfriend, who she is German, and she was able to help translate. And so she was the one being able to tell me, Dan, they don't know who you are, and they think that you should be a comedian from the Netherlands. That's who they said is scheduled, and his name is Don, Daan, and they said he's hilarious, and that I'm not him.
No, you're not a comedian, but that's funny.
Yeah, so we worked it out eventually. Obviously, we did have a show that night, and we met up a little bit later. But that's where we met. That was quite a night.
That was a great night, yeah. We had a good sing-along and everything.
We did. It ended up being a good show.
It did. So like that weird punk rock band that went on before us.
Yeah, the local punk rock band followed by two folk artists.
Yeah, that makes sense. And my buddy Ben Riddle was with me because we just played a festival south of Berlin.
You guys, for as crazy and weird as that night was, some really nice moments at the end of that show with you and Ben singing, and it was a nice night.
Thanks. I miss singing and playing with him. He's really fun to be with.
Yeah.
And just a beautiful, beautiful person, too.
Yeah. Seemed like a good guy. So that is how you and I met, and now since then we've been fortunate to play another show together. Beautiful work.
Looking forward to doing more.
Yes, and we will do more.
Where are we in the basketball season?
Yeah, we are right in the middle for me of conference.
Okay.
Right smack in the middle. So I just came from
You
practice.
get into the Sweet 16, right?
I hope so.
Okay.
I hope so. Be nice. There's no bonus if I do, but it'd be nice.
I've had long conversation with Tracy. Now you could appreciate this. Explaining why a moving pick is bad.
Right.
Yeah. And she's like, but why? And she's like, I'm like, look, there's 2 wide receivers. See how they cross there? That's a moving pick. That's terrible. She's like, but it worked. I'm like, oh, yeah, it works.
Right.
But it just flattens the other guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Technically illegal.
Technically illegal.
Yeah.
In basketball, it's even more effective.
Yes, it's very effective if you can get away with it.
Yeah.
But refs are trained to see it pretty well. Yeah.
And, we discussed, already about traveling in the NBA.
Yeah, right. If there is, you can. Well, there's a
5 or 6 steps. I think you took 5.
There's a graph out there that I've seen where it's a direct correlation between how big of a star you are in the league as to how many steps you get.
Yeah, it's directly related to salary.
Right.
Yeah.
Salary and steps is true.
Yeah.
So, that 8th, 9th man, 10th man off the bench, he gets the 2 steps.
He gets the 2 steps, yeah.
James Harden, the rule doesn't apply.
He gets 2 pivot foots.
Right. He can choose. He can change.
Yeah.
Does not matter. Hey, well, let's talk about sports.
Okay.
You grew up in Massachusetts.
Yes, just outside of Boston. A little town called Billerica.
And so, I'm familiar with Boston. My mom was born and raised in Quincy. Where from Quincy or Boston is that?
Quincy is South Shore. To say it's an hour south, that's just depending upon traffic.
Okay. Okay. Right.
But,
okay.
Yeah. You never get to Quincy. It's South Shore. We're more North Shore.
Okay. That
Boston accent just came out. I heard it.
Did you did you do that on purpose or
No.
that just came out?
It just happens.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was there.
Yeah.
It's like my grandparents.
Really?
My grandparents live out here, and every so often, they still can't pronounce an R in quarter.
Yeah. if we're drinking, it gets worse. And the Boston accent just seems to work, with an F-bomb as well.
It has a better sound of the Boston accent than the F word. It really does. Kind of.
It's the sweetest one. It was Irish, though.
Yeah.
Because it's not even a swear then.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Irish have there's a poetry to how they speak. So you, but getting to sports growing up there's a lot of music stuff, but hockey,
Yes.
your first love, still your love.
I still have dreams about playing hockey.
Okay.
So I was on skates before my 3rd birthday. All the old ladies in the neighborhood used to drive by, I'd be playing out in the street driveway, and they'd yell, Bobby Orr! And yeah, I just loved hockey.
Yeah.
And became a goalie when I was, 5 or 6 years old, maybe 7, and was a goalie up until about 5 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then just had to...
With the bus accident, when I got hit by a bus on a bicycle, that ended my skating.
That'll do it.
That'll end that quick. Yeah.
Now,
nobody was. I was hoping to lift my jersey up to the rafters somewhere.
Yeah.
Nobody cared.
Well, maybe someday you can go back and sing the national anthem at a Bruins game or something.
I'll just throw a rope over the rafters, lift up my own jersey. Get away from me! It's going up there.
Yeah. Now, why a goalie?
I didn't like coming off the ice.
Okay.
I didn't want to take turns.
Uh-huh.
And there's also something about being a goalie where you're needed.
Yeah.
Game can't happen without you.
Right.
And I for some reason, I like that. And I don't know, I enjoyed challenging shooters.
Yeah. What's it like, though, with a puck coming at you that fast? I mean, are you scared for the first year, or do you eventually get over that? Is there any fear? Or
I was never scared. I closed my eyes a bunch. That's different. But if you flinch, that's when you get hurt.
Now, what does it feel like when a puck? Can you feel it with all those pads, or are you?
Oh yeah, most of my goaltending playing happened before there was a crossover that happened in the late '80s, early '90s, where all of a sudden the equipment got good. Because previous to that, you had this yellow foam that was wrapped in cotton, wrapped around your arm, and the way it was designed, as soon as you turn your arm out the way you were supposed to stand, the whole inside of your arm was completely exposed.
Okay.
So you'd have blue, black and blue all down your arm for the whole season, and it was essentially a baseball glove with a wrist guard, and so your whole first finger was all black and blue, and you'd wear a baseball glove or a golf glove underneath. But it was just, you just bruised up all the time. My mom used to make stuff for me because she worked in the hospital, and there was these socks that you'd put on before you got a cast, and she'd get a whole bunch of those and roll them up, and that became a neck guard.
Okay.
We filled some with foam and put it in the inside of my pads, so it was like protected the inside of my knees. Got very inventive about these sorts of things. And then towards the end of the 80s, when there was a company called Vaughn.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, they put extra padding in the glove. And like, you've only been playing the sport for 100 years. Somebody thought this would be a good idea.
I can feel my hand again.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, I had goalie helmets that, the chin cup just rested right on my chin. And I'd get a puck in the face, and it was just lights out. I've been knocked out 15, 16 times.
Oof.
So, and then all of a sudden the company came along.
There it is.
Pro mask. And they put an air bladder in the front of in here.
Oh, I see it.
In front of you, where your forehead is.
Those listening at home right now, they can't see it.
I'm showing my goalie helmet
Bob,
because it's still right on my shelf behind me.
And it's signed by a lot of people.
Yeah, I'm the rock and roll goalie, so I've had a lot of my rock and roll heroes sign my helmet.
That is cool.
So like Olive Blue Rodeo, Kathleen Edwards.
Cool.
Yeah.
You're
Luke
a big,
Doucette.
You're really good at getting stuff signed. You had that guitar that was getting signed all over Europe.
Yeah, I bet that all over the place. I forgot about that.
Maybe it's just those two things I know about
Those are the only two things I can think
of. Well, then, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, goalie just was. I was needed, and I liked.
Yeah,
I liked being needed.
I imagine like your personality. Were you kind of the leader of the team?
I
Goldberg situation with.
I wasn't
Ducks?
until after high school, and then I started playing men's leagues and stuff like that.
And then
I became a lot more vocal. Because in high school, you still like a little bit.
Yeah, you don't know what you're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah, I just knowing you now and all that you've done musically and whatnot. What were you like as a kid? Were you a outgoing? What was your?
I joke that there's a big difference between being well known and being popular. So that's high school. I think I was well known.
Okay,
but I don't think I was popular.
Why?
I played hockey. I didn't have any friends on the hockey team, but I loved being a goalie. It kind of didn't matter.
Yeah,
but I didn't really get along with anybody in the hockey team. I remember, and I was into music and sports, and like the music folks, like the cool music guys, the guys that played guitar, they wouldn't hang out with me because I was a jock. The jocks gave me shit because I had friends that were into music.
Yeah,
and so I was like in this weird nowhere land. And I remember like before state tournament one time, I had pink, yellow, and blue Converse All-Stars.
Nice.
And I had those on in the hockey locker room. And the captain of the hockey team came up and goes, "You got a lot of balls wearing those in here." I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Those." And he points to my sneakers. I'm like, I'm going to get my ass kicked because of a pair of sneakers?
Right.
And I did.
Yeah. You hit on something that not a nerve for me, but I've always had I wouldn't say a hard time, but I've, have existed in these two seemingly separate worlds.
Totally.
And it's interesting because you have the guitarist, musician that, writes songs and pours your heart out on stage. And then you have the sports world, which is, as you just described, a different world.
And no twine shall cross or meet or whatever.
Yeah. But yeah. I don't know about you. I've always looked at them very similarly, like as far as how I think about sports and coaching and as far as writing songs.
And if you take a hockey team, and this works for basketball as well.
Yeah.
It's the same as a band.
Yes.
You have a goal scorer who's the singer. Mm-hmm. You have the assist maker who's like the lead guitar player.
Yeah.
You have the bass player who's the defenseman, and you have the goalie who's the drummer. And if you have a drummer who's trying to, do something that's not helping the team at the time, everything falls down.
100%. I think I've talked to people about that a lot, as like being the leader of a band. I've got 7 people in my band, and then I'm coaching a group of 20 college guys, and it's very similar. trying to understand, who needs what, coming together as a unit.
The Herb Brooks philosophy.
Right, the running lines or no, maybe.
No, Herb Brooks just about being a team.
Right.
Yeah.
And just...
I went all the way back to 1980 Olympics for you.
Yeah, that was good. That's 4 years before I was born, but I've seen the movies.
There's little bits about that. Growing up playing hockey, everybody remembered a story from the 1980 Olympics because it got passed down from hockey things. Am I allowed to swear on your podcast?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Herb Brooks, before the third period of the game against Finland for the 1980 Olympic team, his pep talk, he came in to the locker room. He's like, if you lose this game, you'll take it to your fucking graves. Your fucking graves. And walked out of the room. That was his entire pep talk.
There you go.
And that's all you needed.
Yeah, that'll fire you up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they cut that out of the movie. And I was waiting for it.
Yeah.
Because like everybody who grew up playing hockey at that time knew this story about Herb Brooks and his motivational speech.
He was a tough dude,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, the differences and the similarities. And I rely a lot on that personally to try to, pull different things out of guys. And then,
I bet.
The only thing, sometimes I get it mixed up where the band messes up and I send them to run a lap instead of, when my players mess up and you send them home to learn their scales, they cross the twines. What's interesting though, the music and sports thing is a lot. So I found that in my musical world, almost nobody in my musical world really cares at all about sports and coaching. Almost everybody in my athletic world cares about music and wants to know more. Really interesting. I always get other coaches and players, and once they find out, you're in a band, songwriter, they eat it up. They want to know more about this. I almost never meet another, except for yourself, rarely someone that's a musical person that wants to talk X's and O's or about Bobby Orr. So you're a champ.
Well, right back at you. And you asked about being in high school and growing up. I felt very alone for most of my time in high school. And my junior year in high school, I met my buddy Jeff. And Jeff was into sports and music. And until I found him, I was really alone. And then just like,
here's someone.
Here's somebody.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes all you need is just one person.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden the world kind of opens up. Now, did you feel alone because you played sports, but just not connected to the other athletes?
At my 20-year class reunion, I was in line behind somebody that I played hockey with from the time I was like 11 or 12 until we graduated high school on more than one team in a season.
Yeah.
So we played like high school hockey and then also town travel teams. And I said hello to him. And he turned on, he's like, who are you? I'm like, Bobbo? And he's like, huh? I'm like, goalie on all of your hockey teams? And he's like, huh. He had no memory of, and I was like, that's incredible.
Wow.
I had no lasting impact on him. And I was relieved because I didn't ever like him. So, he's kind of a dick. Like all the time growing up, it was just like, I didn't want to deal with him anyway, but just bumping into him 20 years later, I thought, I'll say hi.
Yeah.
But he had no memory of me at all.
Wow.
And I was one of two goalies for like 7 years of his life.
And I imagine you're a pretty good goalie.
I'm a pretty good goalie.
Yeah. Now, going back to your buddy, what was it about that relationship that kind of then opened things up for you?
Just realizing that I wasn't the only one that was into sports and music. And Jeff just made me feel not alone.
And did you guys band member or just write together?
Immediately, we formed a band.
Okay.
And we're running track together. And he played hockey. His dad was a hockey coach and all those things.
What'd you run in track? Just quick, because I ran track too. And
I ran the 800.
Yeah, I did too for a time.
Is that the worst, right?
Yeah, that's punishment.
It's one time I didn't come in last, and it was because I beat my buddy Jeff. Yeah.
go. It's
I was
a brutal
like
race.
I was like the slowest guy on the track team, which equaled the fastest guy on the lacrosse team.
Okay.
So, north to south, not so great, but north, south, east, west, north,
You're
south,
okay.
east, west.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's dig more into getting into music now. So,
Sure.
when did you start to write songs or play guitar?
I got a guitar when I was 17, and
You're still in Massachusetts.
still in Massachusetts, yeah.
Okay.
And I just started writing songs straight away because I could not figure out how to play anybody else's stuff.
You couldn't play because it's just too hard, or you just
The first guitar I had would not stay in tune, so I ended up writing like songs on single strings, like riffs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I got an acoustic, I'm like, oh, here's chords. Okay, here we go. But I was just writing songs straight away.
you still have any of those?
Oh yeah, they're terrible. I think it's like the first 100 songs you write are pretty bad.
Yeah. Yeah. And then probably some more after that.
Yeah. But
those
after
are really
the first 100, you kind of
Yeah.
you have a little bit more of a filter and go, oh, I'm not going to play this for anybody.
Right. Have you ever played those first 100 for anybody?
Yeah,
And I want to give everybody.
did.
Okay. I want to give everybody context for people that are getting to know you on this podcast. I mean, you just had the Red Wheelbarrow from this past year, 2019.
Yes.
It's shown up on multiple end of the year best album lists in Europe and here in the US. You've gotten rave reviews from it. So
Thank you.
for everybody that's getting to know you, you've
I win most improved.
yes.
Seventh player award.
Yes. Yeah. So, you're, and I spent all day listening to this, to your latest album, just
thank you.
to prepare. And, it really is fantastic songwriting all the way through. And so it's interesting to think back about those first songs but how important those were.
Oh, yeah. I was in college writing, I was in literary magazines and writing poetry and all this other stuff. And just having like one poetry teacher taking a shine to what I'm writing and just saying, there's a real rhythm to all of the stuff that you write. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. And she's like, but you have to learn what a cliche is. I'm like, what's a cliche? And then you're like, oh, those are bad.
Yes. Yes.
If you're going to use a cliche, flip it or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, did you try to emulate anybody early on?
Paul Westerberg.
Okay.
Yeah. I just wanted to be in the Replacements.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was it about his style that you enjoyed?
There was very much a just didn't give a shit. That when I heard the Replacements, I was like, oh, this is possible. Because before that, I listened to U2, and U2 just sound otherworldly. Just like, no humans can create this.
Yeah.
This is out of this world. But then I heard the Replacements, and I'm like, no, that kind of sounds like me. Yeah.
I could see that.
I have these feelings. I have that sentiment. I can play a guitar almost as good as that. So, yeah.
Do you remember, because I kind of do. Do you remember like what it was, the feeling of like putting chords with words that are your own words and it like sort of made sense?
Yes.
And then you're like, oh, that kind of sounds like a song.
Like a song.
That's a crazy feeling.
Yeah. I wish it's out in the garage actually. My last studios that I had doors that people just wrote quotes on. And it's just a great thing to have that outlet. And I remember somebody wrote on one of the doors, 15 minutes ago, this song didn't exist.
Yep.
Now it exists. How cool is that?
And you did it. Nobody.
Yeah.
That's maybe the most.
You're creating something out of nothing. There's magic there.
And that's a great word for it. Where it's hard to describe. And I know songwriters out there and people that have, and it's not even just songwriting, but it's creating art or creating something that wasn't there. That's a really powerful feeling.
Yes, no matter what it is.
Yeah.
I was showing you my paintings earlier.
Yes.
I enjoy painting. I don't care if anybody else likes them. Somebody comes up and goes, I don't like that. I'd be like, all right.
Yeah.
I don't care. But I like
you
it.
Creating it.
I create it.
Yeah. What's it like writing a song? Is it always the same?
Nope. Always different. Well, not always different. There's like 4 or 5 different things that happen. The best thing that when it happens is when you wake up and you have a chorus that you dreamt or whatever, and you know the chords, you remember playing it.
Yeah.
And you get up and you just play it, and you're like, that's part of a song there.
Yeah.
And then fleshing out the rest of it. And, other times you just playing a guitar and something strikes you, and you're like, something has entered the room. There's some sort of magic there, and you have to stay with it until it sees its way out.
Do you? Because I definitely have woken up with, I got to go write this thing down right now. But then after the fact, then you're wrestling with lyrics and chord changes and all the little details of it. What's that like for you? Are you?
I will massage something until it's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was in a band in the 90s called the Gypsy Mechanics, and we had like a reunion show where we played our first album from 95, and we're rehearsing the songs. I'm like, is it too late to change this bridge?
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, these are the wrong chords here.
Yeah.
It should be this. And it's yours to do with.
Yeah.
Change it.
On this last album, was there any song or songs that in particular were harder to write from a standpoint of like you just couldn't get the chorus or you just couldn't get the last bit of lyrics? Was there anything that just took you longer?
I struggled with Part-Time Cowboy because it's
Okay.
a song I had written a while ago, and I didn't like it because it felt condescending, and it felt like it was talking about weekend warriors in a negative way, and that wasn't what I intended. And I was like looking at the song objectively, and like there's none of me in it. And so Tracy and I just ripped it apart and put it back together. I write a lot with Tracy, and she's a fantastic writer. And even as good a writer as she is, she's also a fantastic editor. Where I will come in, I'll have a whole song, and she'll be like, okay, here's your weak line. Here's this. Why don't you change this word to this? And you're like, oh, duh, of course. It's right there.
And she's honest about it,
Yeah.
which is great to have that person.
And you have to also be able to not have your ego get in the way of being like, no, this is what I wrote.
Which is hard when it's a hard thing to let go of a song that you're,
I think it can be, yeah.
what you have an idea and you think it's great, and then someone says, and it's your wife.
There's one of my favorite lyrics in my song Massachusetts. I have a buddy, Chuck, he and I have co-written songs together. And he's like, I don't like that line is just not working for me. And I'm like, it's the best line in the song.
Yeah.
And he's like, no.
and
we just don't agree.
Okay.
That's fine.
Right.
But like, he's the guy that I had a song I was writing called Barstool Queen.
Okay.
I had a friend say, oh, she's just a barstool queen. And I was like, a what? And he's like, she sits on the end of the bar stool and watches the band. She's just there all the time. And I tried to write this song, and again, it just kept coming out mean. And I'm like, I don't want to be the guy playing at a bar, insulting people at the bar. Like,
right.
It's just, and it was just unnecessarily mean. I played it for my friend Chuck. I'm like, I got this song, I'm wrestling with it. And I played in the chorus, and he goes, did you say Barstow Queen or Barstool? And I'm like, Barstow Queen.
There you go.
And then we wrote a song together, Barstow Queen.
That's crazy.
Boom.
That's
Whole
so
song
cool when that
changed.
stuff happens, where it's just one little thing can turn it, and all of a sudden it's a whole new world.
Yeah.
Somebody opens it up.
So, I gave him the bones. He wrote most of it, and he plays it all the time.
That's great.
I forget how to play it.
Now, the other thing about you, we've played a couple shows together, but, I just know from seeing you those few times and then obviously your stuff online, you're just a really good storyteller on stage.
Oh, thank you.
You have funny stories. You've got stories that are hard to believe, but they wrap into your on-stage persona and your whole thing.
Well, thank you.
How long did that take? Because that's hard to do, for someone to get there. How long did that take? And maybe also who, if anybody, did you look up to that taught you about how to do that?
Well, I can remember like my first three favorite things to listen to were Jim Croce, the Irish Rovers, and Charlie Rich. A long way from the Replacements, those three things are. And there was a live thing of Jim Croce just performing and him telling stories. And it was just like, oh, I dig that. And the Irish Rovers was a live thing. And the room that they were playing in just sounded like the most fun place to be. And I always wanted to be that, to be in that room with that sort of sound. And as far as storytelling, there's so many great folk storytellers. What the hell's that guy's name? I was at the Falcon Ridge Folk Festival. Greg Brown. He has a song called 64 Dodge. And he's just got one of those really low, deep voices. Just kind of does his thing. And yeah. And you're like, that's just cool. And I wanted to have be the guy that had stories to tell. And, you know, in order to get the stories, you have to make some bad decisions to get some good stories.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. And you know, you've got stories about getting hit by buses, by cars getting broken into, by, you know, if you weren't such a good sport about it, I mean, you know, other people would, that'd be.
A saner person would have quit.
But I think what you're really good, right, you're really good at is, you know, there's a human element to those stories where we all have screwed up and we've all, you know, done something where, but then it leads into a song where it's very, it ties you in because it's very human, you know.
I'm glad for that.
No, and like I've sat on stage with you and heard those songs and, you know, laughed along about, oh my gosh, how, you know, that's a crazy story. How could that happen? But then it's like in my head, like I've done something like that, you know. And it, I think it's one of the highlights of watching you perform. And when people see you live is like, you're not just getting someone that's going up there singing their song, sitting down. It's like you're getting a thing.
I just played the Coach House a couple weeks ago, and I told the story about failing a field sobriety test in Germany, and I explained to like several hundred people who sat there silently as I explained what a German field sobriety test was. And I'm just sitting there explaining it. I'm like, I can't believe a whole room of people are quietly listening to this mundane story about me failing a field sobriety test, cold sober.
Right, which you remember, I heard this. You haven't drank anything.
Not that, no. Yeah. Not then. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you've got great stories. I really respect that about you.
I appreciate that.
Someday we'll tell on stage the story of us meeting in Berlin when I was supposed to be the comedian.
I will say I keep a tour diary while I'm touring, and that helps me remember things. And, you know, I've been writing and compiling things, and Tracy recently was like, you know, you got to compile some of your short story things, you know, do something with those. And so I started going through my Google documents, and I had like 200 or 300 short stories that I'd written. And I'm just like, what do you do with this? I have no idea. And just ridiculousness that
your tour diary though is unique. And you say you keep a tour diary. It's not just that you keep it. I mean, you share that on Facebook, social media, which is which I think is interesting. What was the decision to share it with other people rather than just, you know, keep it to yourself?
Narcissism.
Okay. Well, because the reason I ask is because I really enjoy it because there's a commonality of it where you read it and you're like, I get it. I like, you know.
It's a writing exercise for me.
Yeah.
And, you know, on tour, it's just like I do that before I fall asleep. So a lot of the time I will wake up and there'll be a string of Z's or whatever across the keyboard because I will fall asleep on the keyboard. But it's part of the process of doing everything else and wanting to remember.
It's fitting that in the beginning of our conversation, Bobbo speaks of legendary hockey stars and coaches, specifically Herb Brooks and Bobby Orr. Hockey is a sport known for its grit, its toughness, its passion. And for those who have ever met Bobbo, seen his show, or heard his music, can sense a streak of toughness running through his lyrics, his guitar playing, and his spirit. But hockey, though not for the faint of heart, is also known for its aesthetic beauty. Sports writers and poets have long been drawn in by the freshness of the ice, players that move gracefully in synchronized patterns, and the stark and simple beauty of the rink on a winter day. And this part of hockey, too, runs through a writer like Bobbo Byrnes. Keenly aware of both the bruises and the beauty, and the magic that the mixture can make. Bobbo has played over 350 shows in the past 2 years, all over the globe. An amazing feat. And it speaks to a certain level of resilience he has to, night after night, town after town, pick up his guitar, share stories and songs with an unmatched level of vigor. And as he'll explain, he's seen some hard days, faced moments in his career when most would give up. But no, Bobbo Byrnes was a hockey goalie. He can take a hit. Let's take a little detour for a second.
Okay.
I want to play a game.
I'm ready.
It's called overrated or underrated.
Okay.
Okay, overrated or underrated 80s music.
The wrong 80s music is underrated, and the wrong 80s music is overrated. Motley Crue, totally overrated. Simple Minds, Naked Eyes, totally underrated.
I'm with you on the underrated. I really badly, and I'm close, and my wife knows, I talk about this all the time. I would like to do like an EP that's just a straight 80s album EP.
Oh, I'm totally on board for that.
We should do it.
Yeah.
I would just love to just go straight for it, right down the middle, 80s.
Like, you just take like Def Leppard.
Uh-huh.
Okay, that's so Boston. I heard it there.
I wasn't going to say anything, but that was great.
Okay. Like their album High and Dry, fantastic. Their album that sold 800 million copies, not so good.
Right, but
it had Pour Some Sugar on Me.
Right, so there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, 80s. I'm into it. Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan's accurately rated.
Okay.
Neither under or over.
Okay. Taylor Swift as a songwriter.
Underrated. Yeah.
Yeah, she's got some good stuff.
She's got some great stuff.
Yeah. Tom Brady.
Oh, bringing out the guns on that one,
Yeah.
huh? Tom Brady is accurately rated. He's the greatest of all time.
Okay, I'm with you. I'm a Boston sports fan. Okay. Belichick.
Belichick?
Okay.
How do you rate him?
Yeah.
He has to be underrated because people that were coaches for him are now in the Super Bowl.
Right, that's
Yeah.
true. Okay, Brady and Belichick together, overrated or underrated?
Accurately rated.
Boston sports fans as a fan base.
Underrated and overrated is not the right right word to describe. They're accurately annoying.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're one of them, but
I am one of them. Yeah.
And I am too.
Yeah. So like the whole Red Sox Yankees thing,
Yeah.
Any day of the week you can be around Fenway and buy a Yankee suck t-shirt.
Okay.
Yeah.
German schnitzel.
German schnitzel is underrated. And I'm actually a fan of the Jaeger schnitzel.
Okay.
Which is the mushrooms and gravy. But I have a friend, Roman, in Austria, who will contest that that's not actually correctly, schnitzel, because schnitzel was invented in Vienna, and it shouldn't have all that crap on it. It should just be the breaded pork. So I've been schooled
On the proper
schnitzel.
Okay.
Yes.
I very much enjoyed it in my European tour.
Yeah.
The German
Did
schnitzel.
you like to get it with the mushrooms and gravy, or did you get it with just plain
I think I got it.
with the hummus?
I got it. The best one I had was up in. I played the church that's north of. What's the family that has the 800-year-old church?
Oh yeah. I'm blanking on his name. He's got all the whiskey.
Got all the huge whiskey collection.
Oh my God, does he have whiskey?
Yeah, I want to go back just for
He's
that.
such a sweet, nice guy.
Very
He's
nice.
got whiskey and board games.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I was more excited to be done with the show to go back and hang out with him. And the show was an 800-year-old beautiful church.
Yeah, with the gigantic hanging angel holding a bowl for baptisms that is suspended above your head.
That's right.
Like, what the Christ is this? Literally.
Yeah. That was a fun show. But yeah, he took me out to dinner before that show, and I had schnitzel that was like local to the northern German area, and it was unbelievable. So good.
Okay. I remember being there, and the second time we were there, they took me aside, and they're like, we'd appreciate it if you didn't stand up on the pews this time.
That's right. St. Jurgen? No, St.
Jurgens, yes.
Yes, that's it.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a good show. Okay.
I'm like, when did I stand up on the pews? Oh, I stood up on pews.
They remember that. They told me.
did.
Yeah.
Did they?
They told me. Because we were talking, and I said, I'm playing with Bobbo later. And Bobbo. He throws his guitar in the air and stands on the pews in church.
It's got to be sacrilegious or something.
Yeah. Well, toast.
Toast is totally underrated.
I know this about you. You're a big toast guy.
Somebody sent me a thing was like, who was the genius who took bread out of the oven and said, you know what we should do? Cook it again. Yeah, this is my toast shelf over here.
Yeah, Bobbo's getting up to show me. So these are toast. Wow. So you bought these, or people buy these for you?
All of the above.
Okay. Yeah, you are a toast fan.
Yes. I have lots of Mr. Toast stuff.
Okay, yeah, that's what he's showing me right now. My brother has a podcast. Oh, look at that. The Rolex toaster. Roller toaster, sorry.
It's a Matchbox car.
And you can squeeze down on the tote. That's cool.
Yeah.
My brother has a podcast, and they have a long-running debate with every guest that comes on. He does a podcast for the Pac-12 football.
Okay.
And it's the proper way to cut a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Triangles.
Oh, you had that answer right away. Okay. They have a running poll, and it's pretty close. There's a lot of diagonal fans out there.
That's what I mean, diagonally.
Okay, so sorry. There's a lot of diagonal fans, but then right close second is straight down the middle. Yeah. No, is it straight down the middle, though, long ways or short ways is what
Either one is wrong. It's diagonal.
Why? I just love why is that wrong? It just feels wrong. I agree.
It's totally wrong, because if the triangles, you can get more in your mouth without getting peanut butter on the side of your cheek.
That's probably the best explanation that I've actually heard. Most people just say, I don't know. It's wrong.
No, it's easier to eat.
Yeah.
A lot of my favorite food is triangular and covered in cheese.
Okay, so grilled cheese.
Grilled cheese, Doritos, pizza. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you on all those. I was going to say the diagonal also makes sense because it's about setting up the second bite is really tremendous, because you bite into the diamond or diagonal on the end. So that second bite, you're just going to get straight PB&J because of the first bite. Mm-hmm. And so, I agree. That's the correct way.
Yeah.
Glad we figured this out.
There's no other way. I mean, you can do it the other way, you'd just be wrong.
Fans of my brother's podcast will be good to know. I'll send them this. Okay, well, thanks for playing. Enjoy that game.
Of course.
Shift a little bit to the best word I can describe for this segment, I guess, is resilience in being a musician. You know, you've done over 300, 350 shows in the last couple of years.
I had probably about 300 shows in the past 2 years.
Yeah. And you're going town to town, different place, great show, tough show, little money, lot of money. fans, all over the map.
All the
I know,
above,
you know. Where does the drive to do the next one come from?
I guess because it's more of a journeyman's approach to this.
Yeah.
I never, well, I'm not going to say never, but a long time ago, the idea of being the huge pop star stopped being the dream. The dream isn't a destination. The dream is to keep doing it. That's the destination. That's the drive.
It's what you do. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Have you ever felt like giving up?
No. And that probably says something is wrong with my brain. I have a friend, my buddy Boris, says things to me. I did a music festival in Orange County here at the Southern California Americana Festival. Mm-hmm. Pulled this whole thing off, and it mostly went well. But there was just some things with the venue that just made that aspect of it terrible. And I was talking to him afterwards. I'm like, next time I'm going to be doing this. And he's like, that's what's wrong with you.
Right.
Is like most normal people would say, screw this, I'm not doing this again. And you're like, you know what? Next time I figured how I can make it better. And
when you do, and I know this about you a little bit personally because I was around after in Germany when we were touring together and you got your car broken into, stuff stolen.
Yeah, about $7,000 worth of stuff.
And you just had to get up and do a show the next day, right? Or 2 days later.
I had that day off.
Yeah.
And I had a show the next day.
And like, I'm imagining you, because I've been there myself, but not after having my car broken into and all that stuff stolen, getting to the next show and having to put on a great show. Mm-hmm. Like, how was that?
There's a little bit of the problem solver in you that comes to mind.
Yeah.
Because I still had my guitars, but all my pedals had been stolen. So it's like, okay, I have these chords, I have this thing here. How do I put this together? And then you're like, okay, I know how to do this. And you just sort of...
Just do it.
Just do it.
Yeah. Yeah, almost therapeutic in a way, maybe just to get back out there and play and move on with it.
It is an ass kicking.
I know. I was... that was right when... Right... I believe...
That's right after Berlin.
Right after Berlin.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember just thinking, oh, man. And then that booking company, they put you up in those apartments in Bremen. And not the greatest part of town.
That is the second time I've been robbed there.
And so I remember myself thinking every night I get home from a show and it's, midnight, 12:30, kind of like little, not great feeling going into the flat.
I had been targeted because everything was hidden in the trunk. Somebody knew that I had stuff in that car. And that's a different feeling too.
Sure.
You're like, oh, somebody's watching me. Awesome.
Right. Because now you're like, it's a neighbor or somebody, that's not a fun feeling.
No.
Well, to not dwell on that part, because I know that was a tough part. How about where's the next song is going to come from? Do you ever worry about,
I was
running out?
Yeah.
And what do you do about that?
Try not to think about it. Try not to dwell on it. Because whenever you finish a song, you're like, well, I'm out of ideas now. I got nothing more to say. And there will always be another story. There will always be something coming.
Do you find it coming from when you read books or you're listening to somebody else or you're just thinking, is it all of the above?
Everybody gets inspiration from different places. Like Led Zeppelin read Tolkien, and they wrote some song about the Hobbits. My wife and I have written a whole album based on the TV show Firefly. That's just...
Yeah. And
I'm exceptionally proud of that. It doesn't feel trite or, it's not fluffy or anything. Those are some of my favorite songs we've ever written. And I would have never thought to watch an episode of TV and pull bits of dialogue and like put that into a song. So that was quite an adventure, and just as an exercise in songwriting too.
Sure. Yeah. Now, getting to new songwriting, you've got, you've released basically an EP or an album the last, 3-4 years straight?
3 years in a row.
Yeah. And now you have, is it a full length or an EP coming out?
11 or 12 songs.
Okay. And want to talk a little bit about that? Is that a new direction or just...
It actually feels, some of them are older songs, have just new life. And it feels different from my last ones because Motel Americana was sort of acoustic and rocking, and then Two Sides of This Town was more rocking, and this last one was very rocking. Mm-hmm. And this one here, I've stripped a lot of the rock away and has a very folk feel to it with mandolins and acoustic guitar and this violin and accordion. And it almost goes Irish in some places where
That's great.
I even wrote an Irish jig.
That's great.
And
you're the perfect guy to write an Irish jig.
Thank you.
You're going to play the crap out of that song live.
I hope so. And it just was where I was feeling I was going.
When do you plan on releasing that?
That'll be out in August.
Okay.
It'll be done in March, but released by Songs Whispers in August.
And then you'll head back over to Europe.
September, October then.
Perfect. Okay. We'll look forward to that.
Thanks.
Your younger self, what advice would you give a younger Bobbo starting out in music?
Get a Telecaster and a Gibson, and don't worry about any of the other guitars. I say that as we're surrounded by...
I say I
don't know how many guitars are in this room.
It's about...
Quite a few.
15 to 20.
Something around there.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
What about career-wise?
Career-wise? Advice? God. I still don't know. Stay true to yourself. I guess take singing lessons.
Did you ever take singing lessons?
I do now.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
How do you feel that's helping? Or
it's helping
is
me way better.
Okay.
That I didn't feel comfortable singing live until this past year.
Really?
Yeah. And it's always, that scene in Bull Durham when he tells them to throw the ball at the mascot?
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like I could throw a strike or hit the mascot. It's anyone's guess where the next one's going. But every once in a while, like now more days than not, I feel like I can almost keep it in the strike zone. And that's been a huge thing for me. Because I never wanted to be a singer-songwriter. I wanted to be the guy in the band.
Just a guitarist? Or
I just want to be a guitar player and multi-instrumentalist.
And when did you start to make your way to the forefront?
When nobody else would sing my songs.
Okay.
This is all by default. I'm just being the lead singer until the real guy shows up.
Until somebody. Well, it's been a good default for you, obviously. What about music brings you the most joy and meaning in your life?
Just a room full of people listening. It doesn't have to be a big room. It can be a small room. 10 people listening is great.
Yeah. Knowing, you've been in the couple places that we've played shows together, you know, when you get that special moment. That's pretty cool.
That's everything.
Yeah.
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 When you actually connect. And, it helps if you're not fighting a football game on TV.
Right. Which sometimes those shows pay nice and...
Yep. That's when you're singing wallpaper.
Yes, right. Yeah. It's just live practice.
Yeah. But I like watching a football game. I was on stage just recently, and in the middle of performing, I was like, oh, that's pass interference. Like, I said it right into the microphone. Like, I'm clearly not in the moment here. This is not good. And it was pass interference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got a keen eye. Yeah. As we start rounding to a close, there's just so many ways we could go. You're just such an interesting person. And I really do. I think it comes across in this interview just how hardworking you are and how much stick-to-itiveness you've had, and I think there's a lot of people rooting for people like you to just continue to break through.
I feel that sometimes, like I feel like I'm the underdog some people are rooting for.
Yeah,
and that does empower you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
There's a Calvin Coolidge quote about persistence, about, education won't pull you through. The world is full of educated derelicts and all this other stuff. Persistence alone is omnipotent. And that has really been in the backbone of my mind. How's that for breaking up cliches? And wrap it all up in a nutshell.
I like that. Yeah. No, but
it's persistence.
Yeah.
And, recently been watching Brene Brown.
Yeah. She's great.
Yeah. And get a lot out of that because my last album was called The Red Wheelbarrow.
Yeah.
There's a poem. It's right there on the wall behind you. I make people read it before we start working in the studio.
It's William Carlos Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the whole poem is 16 words long. And it ties into the whole Brene Brown thing that she's just been putting out about vulnerability. And in this here, it's so much depends upon a red wheelbarrow glazed with rainwater beside the white chickens. And until the poet said that existed, you couldn't picture the scene in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone could have written that, but he did.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all art. All art is about showing up and doing it. It's dependent upon the actual doing it. You can talk about it all you want.
Yeah.
But unless you actually do something, it's nothing.
Yeah.
And that's the red wheelbarrow. That's vulnerability. That's persistence. It's all of those things.
That's great. And I think that really comes across in your whole album. And one of the reasons I think that music fans here and over in Europe have, it's been critically acclaimed. A lot of year-end lists. I highly suggest people listening, check it out.
Go to my website. They're
yes.
there.
Yes. And looking forward to more with, now, I don't want to say the name of the new album unless you're holding it, or you can say.
Yeah. Sea Green #5.
And how about that? What, you explained the red wheelbarrow. Have you?
It's still percolating
I like that.
how it all comes together.
Okay.
So
it's okay. I get it. I'm not. Yeah. You gotta wait till it's done.
I love green, and it's like one of my paintings, Sea Green #5, and so just visualizing that and imagining what it would sound like.
Okay. Looking forward to that.
Thank you. I look forward to doing some shows together with you again.
Well, we're gonna do some shows.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're gonna. I can just say it on air. I'm trying to think about putting together a beautiful work songwriter festival.
Oh, wow.
For possibly maybe 2020, end of the summer, where kind of take maybe 8 to 10 artists and go to a bigger venue and kind of take the model that we played at, with the thing I'm doing, and try to make it a bigger once a year festival. So
that was a fantastic night.
It was fun.
I remember having to go on after Alice Wallace yodeled.
Yeah,
that's a fun one to follow.
That's why I put you next to her in the in the lineup.
I love Alice. That's just one of those. Oh, son of a bitch.
Yeah, that's tough. Also it's tough. Like when you play some show and there's a variety of artists, and some like 12-year-old girl plays in front of you and just kills it.
Yeah, on a ukulele.
So good.
Yeah.
And you get up there and it's like, you just got to own it. Like, okay, I'm not going to be able to follow the 12-year-old girl just killing over the rainbow. So, hey, one of the best investments you've made in your career, what would that be?
Joining forces with my wife, not just getting married and all that sort of stuff, but she's been the best thing for me artistically, surviving all of that. And to say as an investment doesn't sound exactly right. But
the investment in that relationship.
Yeah, investment in that relationship.
Yeah.
And not taking any bit of that for granted. Yeah, she's everything.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this edition of the Beautiful Work Podcast. Please subscribe on iTunes or Spotify and sign up for our newsletter on dankrikorian.com for more information. We thank Bobbo so much for coming on and telling his story and be a part of the show. Please make sure to follow Bobbo, and you can go to his website, thefallenstars.com/Bobbo Byrnes for more information. Until next time, whatever you're doing, wherever you are, keep making that beautiful work.